Hey everybody, and welcome to POW PALS with your pal Alan.
And I'm Jake.
And we're really excited that you're here. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for always tuning in if you've always tuned in before.
Yeah.
If you're new, hey, thanks for checking us out. We just really appreciate you. We're just to recap, we're two Christians who love nerdy things, and we love talking about them.
Yeah.
We've toned down our podcasting time to focus in on subject matter as opposed to just rambling, which you can often do when you love things.
Yeah.
When you're passionate about talking stuff. So yeah, thanks for checking us out. We hope that you connect with us. Check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/nerdychristian. Jake and I both lead a Bible study every Tuesday nights.
It's more Alan than me.
Well, I was going to ask you to. We'll talk about this afterwards, but yeah, so
you got it.
Yeah. but yeah, so today we prayed right before this because we wanted to talk about something that we don't often see talked about in the Christian community, especially now with nerds and with the things that have been coming out, specifically with the show Invincible on Amazon Prime.
It's great.
And we just watched.
Before we go any further,
Yes.
It's really good.
It's very, very good.
And hopefully by the end of this, you'll want to watch
Absolutely,
it.
right.
Or maybe we'll come to the conclusion that we should never watch it
Right,
again.
exactly. We don't know. But we also, you and I just watched Mortal Kombat in theaters, which was great.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
And so both those properties have a lot of gore and a lot of blood and a lot of that sort of subject matter. And then you texted me and you were like, hey man, this is on my heart. Like, let's talk about this. Let's talk about gore.
Let's try to understand it.
Yeah. And then somebody on TikTok commented on one of my TikToks like, hey, I watch gory things. Like, is that cool? And that got that, me and you are both like, huh. I really don't see people talk about this. Christians talking about this, like specifically on gore.
Because it's just a weird subject matter.
Yeah.
It's not something that you just think of right away when it comes to Christianity. Like usually it's like lust, sexual sin, because that kind of stuff can elicit something in you.
That's right.
Most of the time. I mean, that can elicit something in you. Not that watching something gory can elicit something in somebody. Not necessarily you. That might not hopefully be your thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope not.
Right. And we'll talk about that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So before we go any further, just give us some grace. We are thinking out loud.
That's right.
As this goes. We tried to kind of come to some conclusions, but we really haven't settled on anything. We're just trying to understand. We have some references from the Bible that are pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
So we'll read some of those, try to process what God is trying to tell us through those scriptures.
Amen.
And then also what we can get from watching something like Invincible or Mortal Kombat.
That's right. Yeah, and again, this is all Holy Spirit filled. This conversation, this was not like we typically plan out our conversation, but here we're trying to process it through with you guys. So please leave us anything in the comments of what you think, what the Holy Spirit's leading you to think. If there's any references in the Bible that you want us to check out, that'd be awesome. This is an ongoing learning thing for us.
Yeah.
So let's do this. Let's recap Invincible and Mortal Kombat. So in Invincible, the most recent episode, spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched it, watch it first.
It really won't ruin anything.
It won't ruin anything.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, it's still really cool to watch. First off, let's try to talk about why we think, like, gore is and blood and stuff is so maybe not prevalent, but why it's so interesting to watch.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I want to get your answer before I kind of answer.
Okay.
But yeah, why do you think that gore is like, it's like eye catching for us?
Yeah, because it's not normal, especially for us who don't. I mean, especially when it comes to the way gore is used in films.
Yeah,
it's typically used in a violent way.
Yeah,
and so it's not normal. There's one, and then two, it's really it makes an impact. Like it's an impactful thing because you can watch a movie with like fighting and whatever, and they like have cuts and bruises, things like that. But when it comes to gore, that is a whole different level. You see things inside. You literally see a person's insides, which you don't normally see.
No.
And especially in a way that they depict it, it's just very attractive. Anything like that is attractive, though.
Yeah.
Anything weird is attractive.
The realm of normalcy.
Correct. So I think that's my answer. What about you, man?
No, I think you nailed it. I think that's exactly what it is. I think it's a shock factor.
Yes. There you go.
We literally go through our lives in America. Most people in America go through our lives pretty normal.
Yes.
Like, especially compared to the times of the Bible. Like, they probably saw that stuff a lot more than we do nowadays.
Sure.
So we're a lot more sensitive to that kind of thing because we don't see it. So when we see it in a movie or a TV show, we're like, whoa.
Yeah.
And it really is this sense of like shocking thing that you're seeing because it's just it's out of our realm of normalcy.
It's meant to elicit certain feelings. It for sure is. And especially when it comes to horror movies, the gore movies, like that's literally what, like the title of the genre, gore is like, it's meant to elicit certain, like an ickiness or something like you feel gross. And, so
let's get into Invincible.
Yeah. I think there's a reason for it. So Invincible, we'll talk about this one instance. We won't go over like all the other things, but there is one instance that was pretty shocking. We talked about this yesterday where so if you haven't already seen it, so the Superman type character, his name is Omni-Man. He takes his son by the head and he places him in front of a subway like this, like holding him up like this, and Invincible, his son, basically they both get run over. The train basically just goes straight through them, while he's forced to watch people get mangled and die and get thrown out windows, get cut in half, like because of the force of the train, coming at them, because of just how strong bodied
They're literally, if you look at it like this, they're literally the strongest metal in the Marvel universe, the strongest metal. Like, it just won't. It's literally like he's holding his son, and all of this train is just breaking apart as he's going. Then you see like blood and guts and body, like it's. You knew as soon as he started holding him like that, man. You're like, oh no,
it's rough.
Oh no, oh no.
It was rough.
But then you're like, oh no, oh no, oh no.
It was rough because of the context of it too, right? That Omni-Man was forcing his son to realize how futile human life is, which was the point. That was the whole point of it.
Which is interesting because we talked about it before the podcast because we were really trying to understand what kind of angle to take. So it's really interesting, though, when you watch that, they do a really good job of the aftermath and how people in that Invincible universe are dealing with this like huge event travesty type thing. Yeah. So it's not like it's this pointless killing, especially in Invincible. It's this pointless killing. Like, Omni-Man is basically, he can live. It seems like thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
Like. Yeah.
He has a line in there where he literally is like, Mark is his son, and he's like, "What's 16 years or what's 18 years, 16 years, whatever he says. I can just make another one."
Yeah.
As he's like beating his son to a bloody pulp.
Yeah.
So there's something about villains that intrigue us. I mean, why do you think like the Joker is probably the most beloved villain in all of comic books? It's just because the things that he does are so against the grain. Like, he just does things that a normal person would never do.
Yeah.
Which almost creates this interesting story because it's so outlandish and so crazy.
Yeah. And
I don't know if we try to place ourselves in those worlds or why it's so interesting, but for some reason, the more crazy and like, I don't know, I can't.
Yeah.
What are you getting from that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. The crazier the more shocked we are, the more we tend to feel towards a certain thing, towards a certain character, right? So especially the things that we watch
Mm-hmm.
superhero stuff. Going into Mortal Kombat, the gore was already there because of the pre-existing video game, right? The intrigue for that was, hey, here's a fighting game that is not so innocent. It's an adult fighting game, and so the gore was introduced. And so when it comes to the movies, of course they're going to include the gore because that's what made Mortal Kombat attractive in the first place. But I think the good versus evil aspect of it is very helps me a little bit of accepting a villain get mutilated.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think like, oh, good, he deserved it. But is that right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt totally bad when Jax's arms were like cut off.
Yeah.
That was gory too.
Yeah.
And I was over here being like, no. Even though I knew that like that needed to happen because that's his character. Jax's character is he has two metal arms. So I guess in short, we are talking about gore used in a way of storytelling.
Yeah.
And I think that there's something to be said that if you are looking at gore and you just enjoy it, just by nature of it existing, that there is something going on mentally that that probably is unhealthy. There is an unhealth to it. I truly believe that, like, here in verse in Psalms 102 or 101 verse 3, it says, "I'll refuse to look at anything vile and vulgar." And I think there's something to that. There's something to wanting to seek it out. If you seek out gore, there's something there, right? What we see it as, but we've talked about it, and it's all based on storytelling. The action of Nolan, Omni-Man, putting his kid out to see the destruction, to see human destruction. The point of it was to show how cruel he is, and how sensitive Mark is to being human. Right? Mortal Kombat, it's a little bit more insensitive to that, but it does show the severity of like how rough the combat is, how rough Mortal Kombat is. It's life and death. Like, and while I'm so entertained by I forget his name, but the guy with the hat, the metal hat.
Kung Lao.
Kung Lao.
Yeah.
I'm so entertained by Kung Lao's spinning hat and then like forcing a woman to like go through it so that she's cut straight right in half. I mean, I'm so entertained by that. And I laughed. We laughed.
Yeah,
we both
like,
laughed at it.
Oh!
Yeah. Ooh. But that's the thing, is it elicits more of a like an enjoyable emotion as opposed to if I were to watch an actual gore film of someone being tortured,
or if we were to see that in real life.
Yeah,
I can't remember who I talked about this with, but you know what's interesting to me is that if you're watching a movie or something with your parents, and it's an action film, sure, when it comes to somebody getting killed or shot or whatever it is, not a big deal.
That's right.
When it comes to there being a sex scene in a movie with your parents, cover your eyes, don't look at that. So I think we also have to look at it in the aspect of we can somewhat compartmentalize what we're watching. Now, you have to know yourself. What we're not telling you to do is we're not telling you that everything you watch is okay. We're also not telling you that you can never watch anything ever again and just lock yourself in your basement and watch worship music for the rest of your life. Like, we're not telling you to do that either. This is all a personal accountability thing. But
that's good.
at the same time, it's like we can compartmentalize that the things that are happening on the screen are not really happening.
That's right.
Like there are real murder like videos out there. If you wanted to, if you are going out there and looking at real murder videos, then I think there is a bigger issue.
Yeah, there's a bigger issue.
Because in the context of Mortal Kombat and Invincible and, you know, the Joker, we know that stuff, it's an interesting story.
Yeah.
It's not real though.
That's right.
It also is weird when we read. Let's go ahead and read one of the passages that we found.
Yeah,
so we just found a couple of gory, bloody type things. I'll just read one real quick.
Yeah,
it's in Judges 4, and it's talking about there's a war happening, a battle, and this guy's on the run, and I'm pretty sure. It says, "I'm thirsty," he said. "Please give me some water." She opened a skin of milk, gave him a drink, and covered him up. Stand in the doorway of the tent, he told her. "If someone comes by and asks you if anyone is there, say no." But Jael, Heber's wife, picked up a tent peg and hammer and went quietly to him while he lay fast asleep, exhausted. She drove the peg through his temple into the ground, and he died.
Yep.
Like, that is an extremely gruesome death.
Yeah.
In the Bible. It's not like the Bible is trying to hide this stuff from us. There's a context to it. God's trying to tell us something. I'm not saying that God's trying to tell us something from Invincible.
Yeah.
But there is something that can be learned from those shows. It can also, like I said, we don't see that stuff. Back in that day, I have to imagine, again, this is conjecture. I just have to imagine that kind of stuff is much more normalized than nowadays.
Sure.
Killing is for sure not normalized nowadays.
That's right.
Like, you kill someone, you go to prison.
That's right.
That's the way we look at it for the most part. So I don't know. This is why this is such a complicated thing.
Yeah. It's complicated.
But like I said, when you're watching, this is just a way that I look at it. Not that it's right or that it's wrong, but when you're watching it with your parents, the reason I think that sex is more of a big deal watching a movie is because that is something that you can go out and do, and that society doesn't look down upon. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But when you're watching somebody like cut someone's head off in a movie or shoot someone in the face, I don't think some parents may be worried about that, but like most parents, for the most part, are not worried about their kids going to do that. So
it's a different degree. Yeah. And you know, while us Christians, we know sin is sin. You know, me lying is the same as me murdering. Like, it's sin is sin. But society views sin in a different way. Yeah. Like, you know, oh, well, me having sex with someone is me having an affair, having sexual relations with someone isn't as bad, or me watching porn isn't as bad as that guy over there who killed 6 people in a bar. You know, but really, in reality, God's saying, no, all of it's bad. It's all equal. I like that we went into the Bible. I want to keep going with this because we have to look at it from biblical context, and you guys got to see that, like, there is a ton of examples of gore in the Bible. Yeah. And we have to figure out, like, why. Why did they have to say that? Why did they have to say that she went into the tent with a hammer and put a nail through the guy's head? Why? It's because a lot of the time, there's a couple times where this isn't the instance, but there's a lot of times where God is saying you have to go so far into defeating sin that it's really, like, it's this crazy. So we just talked about in Book of 2 Kings where Jehu, he's just been anointed to be the next king, and you know, if you guys don't know Jezebel is like this really evil queen who like has a bunch of like Baal worshipers and things like that, and she really corrupted the Israel. So Jehu is anointed king, and he comes in and he's like, okay, I gotta eliminate all pagan worshiping. And so he goes to Jezebel's palace and is like, yo, come down from here. And she she's like, no, whatever. She's being like a bitch, and basically he's like, all right, whoever's with me, push her down here, and so she gets pushed off the ledge, and it says that like she basically gets bloodied up on the ground.
Yeah, it
and
says
then
blood splatters on the wall.
right on the wall, and then he takes his horse and has his horse stomp on her body. And then afterwards it says that the only thing left were, I think, like her skull or like pieces of her, like her bone or something like that, showing that God had predicted this.
Yeah.
That God said Jezreel's I think Jezreel's like lineage or something like that will be eaten up by dogs or something like that.
It was through Isaiah.
Yeah, so that's an example of God saying, you gotta you gotta put forth the most extreme effort to get rid of your sin. At least that's how it is for me.
Yeah.
That I can't just not watch pornography. I have to also stop watching girls on TikTok.
Yeah.
I also have to stop going on the search part on Instagram and like, when I see a girl, click on it. It is extreme. Like there's other extremes in the Bible, but that's just one instance where it's being shown to, one, show how ruthless Jehu is, because he does get reprimanded for it. God does reprimand him for that Gore. He's like, no, I told you to eliminate them, not like obliterate them, but also that like, he also did this. God also did this. He broke open in the wilderness when they were wandering in the wilderness for 40 years. There was like a group who was just complaining. So he's like, okay, y'all are complaining. So he like split open the ground and have them fell to their deaths. And then he closed up the ground again. like that's pretty gruesome. Yeah. Even though it doesn't like say the details of like how these people died. Like that's pretty gruesome if you think about it. So yeah, I mean, there's also other stuff that like we could or could not talk about, like as far as like the concubine.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different context. So
yeah, I think God is trying. These are opinions of ours of what we believe God is saying to us. He could be saying something totally different to you.
That's right.
I think that he's trying to tell us where this is why there's so many mentions to the heart, because what we take in can turn our heart and therefore not make us, but we are then open to doing things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
Good things, bad things, whatever. So I think these are extremes showing the heart was turned and they had no problem doing these things. Even with God on their side, some of them. And they still decided to do these things. I also think it shows us like just how messy the world is. Like all of these instances, it is an extremely messy world.
Yeah.
This world is different in the Bible. It's different because it's a different time period, but it's also very similar to the world that we live in right now.
Yeah.
I would say the difference is that, again, for the most part, we're not worrying about us getting our heads chopped off walking to our car. Like I feel like people probably had to worry about that a little more than we have to worry about that now. I think that's where also a lot of anxiety comes from. All of humankind, we've always been worried about how are we going to eat, how are we going to survive, how are we going to stay warm, all of those things. Those are all pretty normal things. We go to the grocery store, we have heating and air, like we have it pretty good for the most part.
It's true.
So
it's true. It's true.
Yeah, this is such a weird topic because it's not something that we normally deal with, but it can be bad for you as far as turning your heart, which is important. So I think, like I said, really compartmentalizing, like this is not real that I'm watching, but Let's make sure that we take in whatever story they're trying to tell with this. Let's try to take it in. Let's not just have it face value. Let's try to not necessarily mourn for the fictional characters that are dying on a screen, but at the same time, like, if you were to see that in real life, know that it would be a problem.
Yeah.
So
there's a reason why some soldiers have PTSD, because they see that in real life.
Yep.
And there's a reason why some people who enjoy that, I believe that there is some sort of, like, I don't want to say an issue, but there is something going on mentally. That if you do seek this out, if you seek out gore, if you seek out, like, human mutilation, there is something going on, because it's not natural. God didn't create us to be that way.
Yeah.
He doesn't want us to enjoy it. We enjoy it from an entertainment factor, and then 2, from a storytelling factor, right? So there's a few things in the Bible. I talked about, we talked about the concubine who was raped
by a bunch of different men.
And then she dies.
Yeah.
And her master, to elicit emotion for the 12 tribes, he cuts her body up and sends them out.
All over Israel.
Right, all over Israel. And then that's when a war happened. So his actions were out of, I believe, mourning, and then out of this is what you did.
Yeah.
Like, this is how far gone you guys have gone. But it's also weird for him. Like, I think there's also something to say that, like, he's kind of messed up. He's kind of messed up too.
I think we need to read it. I think we need to read we can read 29.
Do you want to read the, okay, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
When he reached home, he took a knife, cut up his concubine limb by limb into 12 parts, and sent them into all the areas of Israel. Everyone who saw it was saying to one another, "Such a thing has never been seen or done, not since the day the Israelites came up out of Egypt. Just imagine. We must do something, so speak up." What is interesting to me is they're saying such a thing has never been seen or done. Which a lot of times when we see something that's, like, again, it's hard to compare something that really happened to something that is fictional on a screen. But when we see something that is over the top gore, we're like, what? Whoa.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
I don't know. Sometimes checking yourself, I don't know. That's why this is so hard.
Yeah. Well, let's look at it this way, right? So we recently had, over the past year, the thing happen with George Floyd. And there's video evidence of George Floyd literally dying in front of people's eyes. Now it's not the same type of gore that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it is gory.
Yeah.
It is gory in the sense that we just watched someone get murdered.
Yep.
And it's caught on camera. And that very thing elicited even more emotion on top of, like, already what the Black community is already feeling with America, with law enforcement and things. So that we could easily look at the concubine as a similar story of how a similar story. So let's
I think that's a good point, though.
Yeah.
I think when, like I said, we can tell what's real and what's not, and when we see somebody really dying in front of us, and we know that that's a real person dying.
Yeah.
It hurts us.
That's right.
But when we watch it on a screen,
Yeah.
I think we know that it's not real.
That's right.
So, again, know yourself. Know what you can watch, what you can't watch. That, we can tell you all day, oh yeah, go ahead and watch that.
Yeah.
But if it personally affects you watching it, don't watch it.
That's right.
But also, don't hide in your basement, and don't hide in your attic or whatever, away from everything, and feel like that's going to protect you from the world.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, we have to be of the world. We have to be, what is it? I forget the verse, but we have to be, like, of the world and not of the world at the same time. So, guys, thank you so much. Make sure that you comment what you're feeling about this conversation. If you want more out of us out of this subject matter, please let us know. I'd love to continue to discover it and talk about it more.
Yep.
So I'm just really glad that we were able to do that. You know, and I think that like it was something in your heart for us to do, and I think there's a reason for it. I think God wanted us to sort of bring the conversation up. So, so any last words, Jake?
Last words are, thank you.
Thank you. All right, it's your pal Alan.
I'm Jake.
We're signing off. Have a good day.
See ya.
See ya.